Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the channel, and if you're new here, a warm welcome to the community. Today, we have something incredibly exciting planned for you, so make yourself comfortable, grab a snack, and enjoy the experience. We're going to explore a chronicle of heritage, authority, and mysteries, and believe me, you'll want to stay till the end. As always, if you enjoy engaging stories and fresh content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming up next. Now, sit back, unwind, and let's get started.
A Chronicle of Heritage, Authority and Mysteries. The final whisper of the ancient griot. The sun sank beneath the skyline, bathing the expansive Sahel in a golden glow. In the center of the village of Kurukan stood the grand baobab tree, older than anyone could remember. Beneath its sprawling branches lay the frail form of Demba Kuiate, the last surviving griot of the earlier generation. His breathing was faint, and his gaze seemed far away, as if he was already glimpsing the ancestors awaiting him beyond. Surrounding him, the people of Kurukan remained in respectful silence. The young warriors, the women balancing water vessels on their heads, the children with wide, intrigued eyes, all awaited his last words. He turned to his grandson Malik, a young man with keen eyes and a voice as melodious as a nightingale. Though gifted, Malik had never completely understood the significance of being a griot, a custodian of history and truth. "Malik," Demba murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "The wisdom of the griot is not only in his words, but in the secrets he safeguards." Malik gulped, nodding slowly. He had spent his childhood absorbing his grandfather's tales of kings, warriors, and spirits, but never had the elder mentioned secrets before. "There is a narrative I have kept hidden," Demba went on, seizing Malik's wrist with unexpected vigor. "A story that carries the destiny of our people. You must pursue it, defend it, or everything will be in jeopardy." His eyes became unfocused, and with his last breath, the old griot departed. A profound stillness enveloped the village, interrupted only by the morning cries of the women and the distant call of a solitary hyena in the wilderness. The concealed manuscript. That night, Malik found himself alone in his grandfather's hut, the drum resting across his knees. His mind replayed the old man's words. What secret had he guarded with such fervor? He traced his fingers along the drum's carvings, each groove narrating a tale. Then he detected it, a section of the drum's wooden base that was loose. His heart raced as he pried it open, uncovering a small, ancient scroll concealed within. Gently he unrolled it. The writing was archaic, the ink faded, but the symbols were familiar to him. It was inscribed in the sacred griot tongue, a language reserved for true historians. It referred to the lost song of Sundiata, a potent chant sung by the first griots to invoke spirits of wisdom and guidance. Yet it also warned of a peril, a forbidden verse that, if spoken, could awaken something long entombed. As he read on, a sudden gust of wind swept through the hut, extinguishing the flame of his oil lamp. A shiver raced down his spine. Someone was observing him. The stranger in the dark. Malik quickly shoved the scroll into his tunic and stepped out. The village was hauntingly silent, with only the sound of leaves rustling. Then he spotted it, a shadow gliding rapidly between the huts. "Who's there?" he shouted. The figure halted. The moonlight illuminated a man clad in a dark robe, his face partly concealed by a hood. His voice was steady, but had a definite sharpness. "You are not prepared for the truth, young griot." Malik tightened his grip on the drum. "Who are you?" The stranger took a step closer. "A guardian. And you possess something that does not belong to you." Malik's heart raced. Could this be one of the foes his grandfather had warned him about? Before he could respond, the stranger raised a hand, and suddenly, Malik felt a force tugging at him, as if invisible hands were trying to snatch the scroll from his tunic. He stumbled back, clutching his chest. "No. If you want it, you'll have to fight me for it." The stranger laughed. "You are courageous but naive." He snapped his fingers, and the shadows around him began to shift. Forms emerged, figures cloaked in darkness, their faces concealed. Malik realized, with a sinking feeling, that he was confronting more than one enemy. He was facing many. Escape into the sacred grove. Malik's instincts urged him to flee. Holding tightly to the sacred scroll, He dashed through the village, past slumbering huts and smoldering fire pits. The stranger's minions moved like wraiths, their footsteps silent and their chase unyielding. He turned toward the outskirts, where the sacred grove of the ancestors was located. No one dared to enter at night. Rumors spoke of spirits lingering among the towering trees, observing, waiting. As he stepped into the grove, the temperature plummeted. The trees rustled, though there was no breeze. The air was thick with the scent of ancient earth and something else, something potent. The shadows halted at the grove's edge. Even they trembled at the thought of what lay beyond. Malik turned, breathless. The robed stranger stood at the boundary, his glowing eyes piercing into him. "The ancestors will not shield you indefinitely, boy," he said. "The lost wisdom is ours." Then, just as swiftly as they had appeared, the figures dissolved into the darkness. Malik exhaled, collapsing against a tree. But his relief was fleeting. A low, guttural whisper echoed through the grove. He was not alone. The whispers of the ancestors, the murmurs intensified. Malik felt a tingling sensation as ethereal beings appeared amidst the trees. They were the ancestors, their visages familiar yet otherworldly. One stepped forward, an imposing noble woman clad in a glimmering robe. Her voice echoed with the resonance of ages. "You bear the legacy of the griots who came before you," she stated. "But do you grasp the significance of its weight?" Malik swallowed hard. "My grandfather mentioned a secret, a truth I must safeguard. Yet its meaning eludes me." The spirits shared knowing looks. The woman waved her hand, causing the ground to tremble. From the depths of the colossal baobab tree, a stone pedestal emerged, unveiling an ancient carved tablet. The symbols upon it glowed with life. "This," she declared, "holds the key to the lost song of Sundiata. But there is more. The song encompasses not merely words, it embodies power. If uttered with ill intent, it could resurrect something that should remain dormant." Malik's fingers glided over the luminous symbols. He sensed the energy vibrating beneath them. Then the whispers returned, harsher this time. The spirits turned toward the dimness beyond the grove. "They approach," one of the ancestors cautioned. Malik gritted his teeth. He could not afford to delay. The prohibited verse. The runes started to shift, rearranging right before his eyes. A concealed verse appeared at the bottom of the tablet, glowing in crimson script. Malik's breath caught in his throat. The forbidden verse. Abruptly the night shattered with a deafening cry. The stranger and his shadowy warriors had reappeared, standing at the grove's perimeter. But this time, they did not hold back. They advanced. The spirits hissed, raising their arms, but their light dimmed. The enemy had become more powerful. Malik faced a decision: to recite the forbidden verse and risk unleashing its hidden power, or to fight without it. His fingers quivered over the words. Then, a voice, not his own, began murmuring the incantation. Malik spun around. One of the spirits, his face partially engulfed by darkness, was voicing the verse aloud. The ground split open. Something ancient stirred under the earth. The reawakening of the Forgotten One. Malik stumbled back as the ground shook violently beneath him. The spirit, now corrupted by darkness, continued to speak the forbidden verse, his voice distorted and hollow. The night air crackled with energy. From the gaping chasm, a formidable being began to rise. It was neither entirely human nor beast. Its form flickered between shadow and flesh, its eyes ablaze with primal fury. The ancestors recoiled in terror. "He has unleashed the Forgotten One," the regal spirit gasped. Malik's heart raced. He had heard of this entity in hushed legends. An entity so mighty that the first griots had bounded away with their melodies. The stranger in the dark robe stepped forward unperturbed. His hood fell away, revealing a face imprinted with sigils, symbols Malik recognized from the scroll. "The era of the griots has concluded," the stranger proclaimed. "History will no longer be confined to the voices of men, but dictated by the Forgotten One's will." Malik tightened his fists. He needed to act before the entity fully emerged. The battle of echoes. Gathering all his bravery, Malik lifted his drum. His grandfather had once shared that the griot's drum was not merely an instrument. It served as a channel for power. He struck it once. A golden wave of sound surged outward, momentarily halting the shadowy warriors. The Forgotten One howled in agony, its shape wavering. Malik struck again. The grove itself responded. Leaves rustled, and the roots of the baobab tree surged forward, trying to close the chasm. The cloaked figure snarled. He raised his hands, conjuring dark energy to counter Malik's sonic vibrations. A thunderous eruption of light and darkness exploded as the two forces collided. Malik was hurled backward, landing hard against a tree. His sight grew blurry. Through the fog, he saw the noble ancestor reaching toward him. You must uncover the second verse, she urged. The one concealed among the stars. Malik's mind raced. A verse in the stars? What could that mean? The call of the star griot. Agony spread through Malik's body, yet he compelled himself to look upward. The night sky was transforming. The stars shifted. Figures emerged, an ancient griot, arms lifted, singing to the cosmos. The constellation of the star griot. Malik gasped. The second verse wasn't inscribed in writing. It had been concealed in the sky itself, passed down through time. As soon as he realized this, the celestial figure opened its mouth, and a powerful melody filled Malik's thoughts. The true lost song. But just before he could sing it, a shadow loomed over him. The cloaked figure stood over Malik, a dagger shimmering in his hand. This is the end. The strike of the betrayer. Malik's body felt feeble, his sight hazy, but his instincts screamed, move. In the nick of time he rolled aside. The dagger drove into the ground, unleashing a cloud of black smoke that scorched the grass where he had lain. The cloaked figure growled. You cannot evade destiny. Malik's heart raced. His drum lay a few feet away. He lunged for it, but the figure was quicker. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashed a wave of shadowy energy that slammed into Malik's chest, sending him reeling. Pain surged through his ribs. He gasped, fighting to rise. The Forgotten One roared behind them, its form still emerging from the chasm. If it fully materialized, everything would be lost. Malik's mind raced. He needed a way to retaliate. Then he recalled the second verse. It was still in his thoughts, bestowed upon him by the stars. But could he muster the strength to sing it? The anthem of defiance. Malik shut his eyes and inhaled deeply. Then, he began to sing. The tune was unlike anything he had ever experienced before, flowing through him like a stream of pure light. The instant the first note escaped his mouth, the atmosphere shimmered. The shadows drew back, their shapes flickering. The Forgotten One howled, as if the very sound seared it. The cloaked figure staggered backward, covering its ears. No, this is impossible. But Malik continued. His voice soared, intertwining the sacred griot song with the divine verse. The golden mist surrounding him spread, forming protective symbols in the air. The baobab tree responded. Its limbs reached toward him, throbbing with ancient might. The spirits of the ancestors chanted collectively, providing strength to his melody. The tide was shifting. The downfall of the stranger. The figure shrieked as Malik's voice hit its climax. His form wavered between shadow and substance, the symbols on his face ablaze. You don't comprehend, he gasped. This world was never meant to be governed by men like you. Malik advanced, his voice resolute. The griots do not govern. We remember. With one final, resonating note, the cloaked figure emitted a cry of torment. His form disintegrated into tendrils of black smoke, fading into the void. The Forgotten One released a final cry, its enormous shape collapsing back into the chasm as the earth sealed itself around it. The battle had concluded. Malik sank to his knees, weary. The night sky above him was once again clear, the stars observing in stillness. The ancestors gathered around him, their ethereal forms gleaming with pride. The regal woman approached and rested a glowing hand on his brow. You have performed admirably, young griot, she remarked. But your journey is far from over. Malik glanced up, panting heavily. What lies ahead? The spirit's countenance darkened. The song you sang was merely part of the truth. Malik's stomach tightened. There was more. Before he could inquire further, the spirits began to fade. And in the distance, beyond the trees, torches blazed to life. Someone was approaching, and they were not friendly. The concealed reality of the griots. As the ethereal forms began to diminish, Malik reached out with urgency. Hold on. You mentioned the song was merely a fraction of the truth. What else exists? The noble ancestor paused, then placed her hand on his chest. A soothing light flowed into him, and suddenly, everything shifted. Malik's sight became hazy as he was drawn into a vortex of memories, not his own, but those of every griot before him. He witnessed the first griot, Bala Fasik, standing before King Sundiata, vowing to safeguard history. He observed griots crafting words into instruments, their melodies shaping destiny itself. He saw battles where their knowledge preserved empires, and others where their silence led to ruin. Then, he uncovered a concealed truth, one his grandfather had never revealed. The griots were not merely custodians of history, they were the final guardians of something far older, the voice of the earth. The universe possessed a melody, a rhythm that directed life. However, there was an era when humanity attempted to rewrite it, distorting history for their own gain. The griots had battled to maintain the purity of the song, ensuring the past was never manipulated. Yet Malik witnessed something even more horrifying. There existed one final stanza, a stanza so potent it had been erased from history, obscured even from the griots themselves. A stanza that could alter reality as we know it. As the vision blurred, Malik inhaled sharply, collapsing against the baobab tree. His heart raced. The truth was overwhelming. If the wrong individual ever discovered that stanza, history itself could be rewritten. The ultimate guardianship. Morning broke, and soon enough, the warriors from afar had arrived in the village. But they were not foes. They were seekers, scribes, historians, and warriors who had caught wind of the lost song and sought to harness its might. Malik stood resolute before them, the sacred drum by his side. He faced a decision. If he unveiled what he had discovered, the griot's strength could be used for benevolence. Or it could be misappropriated, distorted into something sinister. He inhaled deeply. The griots do not possess history, he proclaimed. We shield it. And some knowledge is far too significant for any individual to wield. The leader of the Seekers, an elder donned in elegant garb, scowled. Would you withhold such wisdom from the world? Malik held his stare. Truth is something that must be earned, not taken. The Seekers examined him. Then one after another, they knelt, a gesture of respect. They came in search of a power-laden song, but instead discovered something more profound. A griot who recognized the significance of his responsibility, the legacy of the griot. Time moved on, and tranquility returned to the village. The darkness had dissipated, and the rift was securely shut. Yet, Malik understood that his adventure was just beginning. He had become the authentic griot, the guardian of all tales, those that had been shared and those that remained hidden. Thus, he followed the tradition of every griot. He settled beneath the magnificent baobab tree, with the village children surrounding him, their expressions filled with awe. He commenced a story, not one of might, not one of conflict, but one of insight. For a griot's true power lay not in the knowledge he possessed, but in the wisdom he chose to share. As his voice soared into the twilight sky, lifted by the breeze, the spirits of the forebears beamed with approval. Their legacy was preserved. For now. The end.
Thank you for watching till the end. If you found this video helpful and enjoyable, please remember to hit the like button as it really supports the channel. Also, if you're new or haven't already, make sure to subscribe and enable notifications. Until next time, take care and keep exploring.